Next, I would like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Sunil Soumya sir. Sir, please.
Ah, Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anime sir, for inviting me on this platform. I'll be presenting my screen now. Okay, so hopefully my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so good morning to everyone. And I'll be talking about some applications of application oriented research, right? That and that will be related to the hostile identification in the code mixed language. Code mixed, I'm telling that because most of us Indians, most of us, we speak in the bilingual, at least. Okay, most of the time, right? Whether we are writing something on the social media or we are doing conversation, right? So we prefer to do the conversation in this bilingual way, right? And the one language, the primary language we always use is our native, which where we are very free, like very comfortable, and then sometimes we mix English also with that. Okay, so that's the scenario uh, for most of us, and in most of the cases, right? It may not be the generic. I mean, it may not be in all the cases, but yeah, that is the generalized case what I have said to you. So, in this particular talk, what I'm going to do is I'm going to define the problem statement that what is hostile content, right? I am going to show you some data set. So, the approach which I will be following is I will first show you the monolingual way, monolingual in the sense the only English, right? That how this problem statement can be understood by the data set which is only in English, right? That is what is the first part which I will be explaining. Then I'll show what are the different methods and all people have been using for that. And then I'll bring this challenges of identifying the hostile content in the Indian languages, right? And then I will be showing you one case study of identifying the hate content. Hate is a part of hostile, which I'll explain in the coming slide. And there, what we have used, that we use the transliteration as well as translation, these two concepts of handling the what is that bilingual data set. So that case study I'll be showing you. And then I'll show you what are the results and all, and what is the current state of art for these things, transliteration, translation. That also I'll speak a little bit. And finally, I'll give some future direction, and then I'll conclude. So this is the outline for this talk. So let me just start that what is this hostile content, and to understand that one, I'll start with the social media content. We all are familiar, we all are on the social media. I mean, most of us, right? Like only a few of us may not be there, but most of us nowadays we are on the social media one or other way, right? And we know that in the social media contents, if we want to categorize, it can be categorized into I mean, two parts. Like it can be the positive contents, what we see on the social media, and it can be the negative contents, what we see on the social media. Nitin Mishra, you have raised your hand. Any question? All right, I'll continue. If you have any question, you can we can discuss that, or else you can post that in the chat box. Fine. So these two are the types of contents what we usually see in the social media, right? So this positive contents, what we say that they are all the hope speech comments or hope speech contents, right? Because these positive contents that some sort of like well done or very good or congratulations or something like that, they actually give us the hope of doing something good, right? So we see a lot of positive contents on the social media, and the main goal of the social media was, yeah, to share our things, and then to appreciate each other, to encourage each other, and so on, right? But then it you must have also identified that there are a lot of negative contents also uh, are there on the social media. And when I say negative contents, I have broadly classified it into the fake, hate, offensive, defamation. There could be many more types, but I have broadly classified it into these types. And all these negative contents together, if you want to keep it in a one superset or in a particular set, then that's the name of that set is the hostile. Okay, so all these negative contents what I have listed here, they are termed as the hostile contents. Okay, so these hostile contents, whether it is a fake, hate, offensive, defamation, cyberbullying, or many other things also, right? So it these contents can be harmful, fine. It is an appropriate use of the offensive words. It is an attempt to defame the individual, and post that spread the disinformation. So whenever you will see these kind of objective when you post, then you can say that that post is a hostile post. Fine. It's just a definition of what is that the meaning of the hostile. Fine. So what are the consequences? Let me talk a little bit about on that. The These are all the consequences. So this hostile content, many times it leads to fears of missing out something. Okay, or in general, it's not the only the responsible of the hostile content, but in general also, you will feel that if you are not using the social media for some time or something, that then we are missing out something, or we feel the stress sometime due to the hostile content what we see on the social media. If someone is trying to make fun of us or our community or our religion, then we may go into the depression. We may feel loneliness sometimes whenever we are studying in a college or a school. So all these things what you are seeing, it is one or other consequences of these hostile contents, and these are increases, these consequences increases with many folds when there is an emergency situations. For example, when there is an election, then if the fake news comes, we like the consequences of that fake news could be anything, right? Similarly, in the COVID-19 pandemic, all of us has experienced that how those fake news or hate news had changed our mindset, or that made us that left us into a fear of something or something like that, right? So there these consequences increases with the emergency situation, right? Okay, so I won't go into the deeper, but as all of us are aware that what is this fake news or hate news or offensive or defamation. Uh, so if this fake news is anything which any information or claim that is verifiable to be false, right? That if any news can made it can be verified as a false, then it is going to be the fake news. Hate speech is the one, any post that targets a specific individuals or group of people based on their religious belief, geographical belongings, race conditions, and so on. Similarly, the offensive, any post which encompasses profane, impolite, rude behavior, vulgar language, and so on. Right? So we have these categories and their definitions. That's how we can identify whether a particular post which is there on the social media is a hostile or not, and coming into one of these categories or not. Right. So with the help of the examples, then data samples, then I'll try to explain you how these posts actually looks like. And yeah, then we'll see that how what are the different approaches people have used to handle this one, right? So if we talk about the hate and non-hate cases, how exactly the data set looks like. So as here, the first example, it is like, God bless them all, to hell with the blacks. Now, it is clearly the hate speech. Why? Because it is against a target group because of their skin color. So it is talking something about the black people, right? So obviously, it is a kind of hate speech. Or this second example is also a kind of hate speech, where it is saying that it attacks the group composed of Arab people because of their origin. Okay, And the third sentence, if you will read, where can I find the National Socialism speeches and music and historical in MP3 format for free download on the net? So this is not a hate speech, although the words what you see, that National Socialism and all, but this is not the hate. This is kind of non-hate category, right? So this is an example of hate and non-hate. Similarly, you can see the dataset samples for the fake and non-fake and their source, right? So these are the data set which I have taken from this particular paper. And similarly, we can have the examples of the offensive, not offensive, right? For example, Grateful Trump doesn't have a dog in the White House. He's a cruel man. So clearly it is an insult of an individual. And in the second case, there is a vulgar language, so it is an offensive. And the third case is not an offensive or profanity. So what I want to show you that this is how the data set actually, or the post actually comes on the social media, any social media, whether it is Facebook, Twitter, or anything. Fine. Now, so the what people have done, the researchers have done, they have developed a way to identify these hostile content. Okay, so it is necessary. All of us know that posts these posts need to be identified as quick as possible, because it is going to lead to many bad sequences, right? So it is essential to identify this one. That all of us agree with that, and at the same time, we also agree that these posts cannot be identified on a manual basis. Okay, why? Because the millions of posts comes on the Twitter and the Facebook or any other social media website. Now, it is not possible for the human moderator to check each and every post which is coming on the social media and find, okay, this is a hostile and this post is not hostile. So it's almost impossible for today's scenario. So then what people have done is they have developed a pipeline. Okay. So what they have done, they made this process automated. And to make this process automated, the first requirement was to collect the data set. And nowadays we have the gold standard data set. I mean, the data set is not a problem, because we can easily collect the data set using APIs or some scrapping tools and all, right? So initially, this was also the problem. We were not finding the data set. Maybe in the early 2010 or before, between 2005 and 2010, this was also the problem. We didn't have the data set to train the model and all, such that it can identify the pattern, whether it is a hate or not hate or something like that. Fine. But then we get rid of that problem. Nowadays, we have ample amount of data set. Fine. So then the people have gone into the different way of classification, where they have gone through the single task problem, where they identified each text as into these categories. For example, whether the text is fake or not fake, or hate or not hate, offensive or not offensive, something like that. And at the same time, later after the single task problem, what we realized that a text or the post can fall into more than one category also. That is called multitask problem, where the post can be hate and fake at the same time, or it can be fake, and we need to identify what is the sentiment, right? Or hate, or what is the sentiment. So these are all the multitask problem which the people have addressed. So, but all these comes in the classification approach of identifying this hostile content. People have also, they have also gone through some other kind of identification approach, where instead of doing the classification, only classification, that whether it is hate or not hate, they have identified what is the intensity of the hate, okay, or what is the intensity of the offensive. Whether the intensity is low, then we can ignore it sometime. If the intensity is very high, it is directly attacking some individual or group, then it is need to be identified as quickly as possible, and we can block those messages or post on the social media, right? So they have identified what is the intensity of those hostile content, offensive, Or sometimes they can also, they have, instead of deleting on block or blocking those posts, they, what they suggested, to curve those hostile intensity, that to replace the words in those posts which is of very high hostile intensity into some normalized word. Okay, so that is called curving the hostile intensity. So this is one of the approach what researchers had follows. And yeah. Now, people are also working towards that one. That what is the correlation between these two, hate and fake? We are also working on this one. That what is the correlation between hate and fake? All these two are, say, that hostile content. But does this hate depends on the fake, or fake depends on the hate, or how the fake leads to the hate, or something like that? Some type of correlation. We are actually doing the research on this part right now. And what is the correlation between hate, fake, and offensive, and with the sentiments also? So these are the different approaches people have followed for the hostile content identification, right? So now, and when it comes to the deep learning, actually I have not shown you one slide where uh, it was essential to do the feature extraction. But in the deep learning pipeline, we know that whenever we have the data set, we can feed that data set of deep learning, and then it can classify into the hostile content and the non-hostile content. Right. So till now, whatever I have shown you, this is the actual flow. What has happened? What had happened till now? Till now, or I can say that sometimes back, maybe 2, 3, 4 years back. Till now, this was the cases. But then, what has happened? We started exploring that how we can use the same approach of these classification of these hostile contents for the Indian languages or the Indic languages. And there what we found that we have the lack of research, or for in the research, in the sense of we don't have, first of all, the data set itself. When we talk about the Indian languages like Kannada, or we talk about the Tamil, or we talk about the Malayalam, Marathi, and Hindi, right? So we didn't have the enough data set. Now also, I mean, we have some good amount of data for the Hindi languages, right? But still, we don't have good data for the other Indian languages, right? So that's the main problem. We don't have much data. And if suppose this is one of the data which I have posted here. Okay, this is also a part of one of the paper. So as you see that what here the data is written in the form of in Devanagari script, that it is hashtag नॉनसेंस मोदी एंड चंद्रयान मिशन सक्सेस होने के साथ ही मोदी जी ने वहां जाकर डिस्टर्ब कर दिया था एंड सो ऑन so then that you can read, and their translation is also written here below. So if those who do not understand Hindi, they can read this, what does this sentence actually mean. So there are some challenges when we try to use the same approach what we have used so far. Okay, what we have used so far, that for the multilingual English case, if we want to use this particular data for with the approach which is there for the monolingual cases, what we found that what the people have found that the performance of the model is not good. Performance of the model is not good. Okay, so labels could be like binary classification, multi-class classification, or anything, but understanding the pattern of this Indian languages, now that is the challenging part for the models. Okay, so this is the sample of the data set which I wanted to show you, that how exactly this data set actually looks like when it comes to the Indian languages. Similarly, you can imagine that when there will be a sentence in the Kannada or Tamil or Malayalam or any other Indian languages, then how the model is going to understand that one, how the model is going to understand the pattern for that, right? For that one, right? So, sorry, it's not a future direction. The slide title is wrong. I just want to go into the more detail of that, what exactly the challenge we face when it comes to the Indian languages. So I have shown here the two examples. That first is about the code mixed. So this, in this particular data set which I had shown you here, at least the data is in the form of the monolingual. Monolingual in the sense the complete sentence is in the form of one language, that is Hindi, Devanagari, right? So this is still better for the model to learn and understand. But when it comes to the code mix or the script mixed, then it becomes more challenging, even for the models, for the machine learning or the deep learning models. For example, the code mixed says that, for example, it is written as "Banti hai empowered woman, feminism pe gyan," and then there are some vulgar words maybe, and then there are some other words in this sentence. So you can easily see that this particular sentence, code mix sentence, actually it is a Hindi sentence, but written in the English script or the Romanized script, right? But actually it is a Hindi sentence. So this kind of data is known as code mix data. Okay, that it is similarly you the people do write the Kannada sentence in English. So there are two languages which involved here, first of all, and then it is not actually written in the Devanagari. It is written using the Romanized script. So that's the problem with the model. Now the model doesn't able to understand the pattern. Okay, that's the problem with the model. So this is one of the challenges. Now another kind of challenge what you may see in the Indian context is that it can be the script mixed. For example, that I am good and then aap kaise hain. So look at here. Here we have the two different script. In this particular code mixed, we had only one script, that is Romanized script, but the language was Devanagari or Hindi, you can say that. But in the script mixed, what is the problem? Is that you have the two different script together. So I am good. So and the aap kaise hain. So there is a switch between the scripts, and that may happen continuously, and that may happen in between also. So there are continuously switching. It may also happen that one word I am saying in English, the next word I am saying in Hindi, but then again the next word I am saying in English, and so on. Now, this sort of things are very challenging for the model. Okay, but in the Indian context, and we know that we are habitual of using this kind of script mixed sentences, right? So that's the problem with the uh, uh, current scenario what we have. So we have people have addressed this problem also, the code mixed. If suppose there is a code mixed data, then how to deal with that one, or there is a script mixed data, how to deal with that. And we have also done some work in that one, and there is one paper which we published in the 2021 in IEEE Big Data, and that is what one of the case study which I want to present here, that how exactly we handled that one. Okay, then I'll also tell you what is the state of art right now people have done, and what is the some good data set you can get for the code mixed and the script mixed. But let me just go through this case study first of all. And this case study says that translation-based hate speech identification in code mixed English, which is nothing but Hindi and English data set, right? And first of all, look at the data set, how exactly the data set was actually looked like. That it was like, I hate Kejriwal, and then you see the switching of the script. Okay, although it is a code mix sentence also, because it is completely written in the Romanized script. That is one thing, but there are some Hindi words in between. There are some script which is changing in between. So I hate is an English word, Kejriwal is a name. So, and then the next word what you see is the this, and then ki, Rajniti ke liye theek nahi hai. So these are all the Hindi words. So you can see that there is a switching of the scripts. Now, if we feed this kind of data to the model and we ask the model to learn this one, now it is going to be very challenging, right? Why? Because it will not able to find the pattern. Okay, what we have usually in only English sentence, right? Because in the only English sentence, we know that we have some grammatical things, and there is some pattern which come, that there is a subject, then verb, then object, and some sort of pattern which model actually learns, and then using that it makes some kind of context, and based on that context it does the classification. But when this kind of sentence comes, right, it is very difficult to for the model to understand what is the grammatical structure with this which this where this sentence is falling, right? So that's the problem. Similarly, the second sentence, what you can see here, nafrat kam or pyar badhate raho. So it is completely, it is a code mix sort of things, right? It is not, there is no second script. There is only one script, Hindi, the Devanagari, but it is written in the Romanized way, right? Similarly, the third sentence is also non-hate. नफरत की मार्केट में मोहब्बत बेचते हैं. And the fourth sentence is also non-hate. नीरज का नाम हमेशा याद रखा जाएगा, याद रहेगा, because he won first gold medal for India in athletics. So these are some of the sample sentences which we actually used for our case. And how did we handle it? So to handle this kind of data, we used two approaches. We used the translation wherever it was required. I'll just tell you where and all we did the translation. And we also use the transliteration. Okay, so let me explain these two terms. And before that, let's see what is the pipeline which we followed. So we collected the data from the Twitter. So tweets we first gathered. And then there was one interpretation layer. Before this interpretation layer, we also had some pre-processing steps, which we always follow whenever we work with the NLP on the, at least with the social media data set, where the data set is noisy. So that I'll show you in the next slide, what are the few steps which we follow in the pre-processing. Now, after the pre-processing, the next step was this interpretation layer. Now, in the interpretation layer, we first tokenized the word, splitted the words, right? And then we did the language identification. Language identification in the sense that this I belongs to English, hate is in English, and then Kejriwal, now this is, can be English, can be Hindi, depends on the dictionary which I have used, because this is a name, okay? Then this word this, it is a Hindi, and similarly the other word. So what we did, we splitted the words. First of all, we splitted the word, and then we tagged every word with its language ID. Okay, so there is a library which we use to identify what is the language for each word in the given sentence. Fine, so that is the first thing which we did here, language annotation. After the language annotation, we did the translation and transliteration. Okay, so there are some places where we did the translation and then some places we did the transliteration. I'll explain that in the next coming slides, what is the meaning of this one. And after this one, after this translation, transliteration, what we did, we concatenated again the words together. We created the embedding for that. And then that embedded vector, what we got here, we fed it to the some baseline model, some machine learning model, and then feed forward model, for the classification, classifying the sentence into hate and not non-hate. So this is the overall pipeline. And the first step was the pre-processing step. So in the pre-processing step, what we did, a couple of things which I have mentioned here, that we replaced the punctuation with the white space. We removed the URLs, Twitter account names, wherever it was mentioned, we removed it. And then texts were normalized into lowercase, right? And further, we also use the lemmatization, which which just first of all check each word, whether that word is in its base form or not. If it is not in the base form, it converts that word into the base form. Fine. Base form in the sense that maybe if it is written details, say that this is the word which is written as details. The base form of this word is detail. Okay, it can be details, it can be some other, like sometimes you do add the detailed ed in the past, or ing in the continuous, right? So the base form of all these three words are the detail. So we checked each and every word. So this lemmatization actually does the same task. You check each and every word in the sentence and bring it to the base form. Fine. And we did these experiments, and this was the result of that one. For example, look at here. For the first sentence, I hate Kejriwal. देश की राजनीति के लिए ठीक नहीं है. Then the converted, after the pre-processing, this I, which was in the capital letter, converted into the small letter, and the hate, Kejriwal, desh ki rajniti, other words were same. You can see that here the full stop which was at the last was also removed. We didn't require the full stop. but the comma in between we kept it. So something like that. We decided what to keep, what to not keep, which we felt that it is important for the context preservation. We kept it, and some other things we removed it. Similarly, for the second sentence, nafrat kam or pyar badhate raho, the same thing you can see here without this full stop. And here, all the first character was, say that in capital, we converted into the small, and there is a reason for that. Hopefully, that all of you understand that why we are converting the capital letter into small letter, so that there should be all these capital letter. Because see, if there are the same word I or same word hate, it can be written somewhere in the capital H and can be with the small h as here. So then model should not treat these two words differently, and that's why we are converting, normalizing it to the small case. Okay, that was the reason. And here also you can see Neeraj ka naam hamesha yaad rahega, because he won the first gold medal for India in athletics. And here we have removed all these punctuations, the stops. Right. So these are some of the pre-processing steps which we followed. Fine. After the pre-processing, the next block, which I had shown you in the previous diagram, was the interpretation layer, and this was the most important block. This was the most important layer, uh, which which we developed, right? So for that one, first of all, what we did, we first tokenized the tweets into words, and using language ID tool, okay, we annotated each word. As I said earlier, that every word was annotated, that whether it is belongs to Hindi or English, belongs to Hindi or English, and so on. Fine. And then we identify, yeah. So once we identify their language ID, then there could be two things. What we decided that, okay, whatever text we have been given in the raw data set, we are going to convert that into the Devanagari script. That was the intention. The approach which we followed in that, the objective was to convert the input data into Devanagari script data. So then there were two different conditions for that. Whenever the word which we identified here as English, okay, so then for those English word, what we did, we followed the translation. We translated that English word into the Hindi term, because the final data set, what we wanted was the Devanagari script. We wanted to follow just a monolingual data to feed into the model. Okay, that was our objective. So we did this translation for all those words which were identified as English. But there are some words which I had shown you that was also written in, that was also identified as Hindi word. Okay, although written in the Romanized script, but it was a Hindi word. Now, for those words, we didn't do the translation, we did the transliteration. Okay, we simply converted that into the Devanagari script. But here, we did the translation. And that's why the translation and transliteration, yeah, both the approach which we followed. Okay, and finally, after doing this one, we just concatenated individual words, whether it was the converted Hindi term or the translated Devanagari script or term. We concatenated them together to a single phrase. Fine. So this was the step in the interpretation layer, and this was the result of that one. So what was this? The first sentence was after pre-processing. This was the case. I hate Kejriwal, comma, देश की राजनीति के लिए ठीक नहीं है. So what we did, so look at here, I hate. Now these two words were English. I have shown the English word into this blue color, and those words which were labeled as Hindi word shown in this pink color. So then I hate, you can see here, it was converted as mujhe nafrat hai. And this say, now it has also come after the translation only. Okay, this say, it was not there actually in this particular sentence, but then it has come after the translation. Kejriwal, because it was a result of the transliteration. Similarly, देश की राजनीति के लिए ठीक नहीं है. So all these words was only transliterated. okay, using some dictionary and the NLP dictionary. So it was yeah, it was just converted into this Devanagari script, and the resultant script what we got was this one, and this was the script which we used as an input. Okay, this was the data, this which is written here in the Devanagari script. We used as an input for the model for the classification as hate or non-hate. Fine. So मुझे केजरीवाल से नफरत है, इसकी राजनीति के लिए ठीक नहीं है. That was the resultant sentence what we got for the first one. Similarly, for the second one, you can see नफरत कम और प्यार बढ़ाते रहो. Here we don't have any translation clearly because all words were the Hindi words. So we simply did the transliteration. Okay, and similarly, because we were doing this one word by word, okay, we were doing this one word by word, so that was the case, right? There were some challenges also in this one, some limitation also, that also I will discuss. But yeah, so this was what was the objective of this one for the translation and the transliteration. Look at the last sentences. Neeraj का नाम हमेशा याद रहेगा because he won the first gold medal for India in athletics. So all these blue words were the English word. So here the translation, you see this, right? And so you see the one limitation here. Here the Kejriwal was actually identified as a Hindi word, but here the Neeraj is being identified as a English word. Now there were some challenges and then some limitations also, which we could not address at that time when we did this work. But yeah, now we have better library and all to do this conversion and all. Right. So but ultimately the data set, the data set what we did, we using this translation and transliteration, we converted the data set into the Devanagari script like this, and we then used this one as our input or as a data set for the classification model. Fine. So this was the case. Fine. Now, what we did, once our data set was ready, the input was ready, we did the feature extraction. And the feature extraction, we simply extracted the embedding for sentence. For this sentence, we extracted the embedding. Fine. And then yeah, and for that one, we use the MBERT multilingual bidirectional encoder. So because it was also supporting more than one languages, so we thought of using this MBERT, and then padding was required because every sentence was of different length. And this was the resultant embedding vector with the 768 dimension for each duet. And these embeddings then further it was sent to the classification layer for the as an input and for the classification as hate or non-hate. So this was the final pipeline. You see this here, we had the input data. So we did the language identification as English or Hindi. So if it was English, so we did the translation. If it was a Hindi, we did the transliteration. We concatenated the data. And this was the main part of our paper. Other part was quite common as we are using in any other research, the tokenization, and after tokenization, the embedding layer, and finally the classification layer. And here for the classification layer, we didn't use any like very complex model. We thought that, okay, we have done a lot of time we are spending for this step itself to make the model simple. We then tried it with some baseline classifiers. So classification models, we kept it simple. Like we tried it with the SVM, LR, logistic regression, random, it should be random forest instead of RM. There is a mistake here. The knife base and the k-nearest neighbor. And we also tried with the DNN. And for all these models, what we did, the input was this Devanagari script, and the embedding what we got from the MBERT for those Devanagari script for all these models. So embedding we were getting from the MBERT, okay, but the classifier what we kept was the baseline classifier, okay, SVM, stick regression, and DNN. And with these hyperparameter tunings for all these different models, right? We got this result. Fine. So when this is the baseline result, the first part which I'm showing, and this is the this is the translation and interpretation feed forward, right? So that is the name which we have given for our for that model, because it is doing the transliteration and translation interpretation followed by the feature extraction. So this TIF was given the name. So we did the experiment in the two parts. In the first part, what we did, we fed the raw data. Raw data was the one which where we had not applied translation and transliteration, means the actual data set. And with the actual data set, when we extracted the feature using the MBERT and we used the logistic regression as the classifier, this was the performance. Like F1 score was F of 76, accuracy was around 66, fine. And similarly for MBERT plus SVM, it was 67, and for other models also you can see how the accuracy is changing. So with the raw data, the best accuracy was for this support vector machine with the 67% of the accuracy, if we talk about the accuracy, right? But when we did this transliteration and then the translation, and we again we again the feature extraction still we are doing with the MBERT, but when we did this TIF with the MBERT, and we used again the same baseline classifier LR, SVM, KNN, random forest, naive Bayes, and this time we also use the DNN, deep neural network. Here also we had used the DNN. It didn't perform well, but when we use this transliteration and translation, and then we fed it to the DNN model, the accuracy was improved to the 73%, and this was the maximum which we could got that time. Okay, and this was the cited result in this particular paper, which we published. And this is the result. This is the research in the late in the December 2021. After that, a lot of things have changed. A lot of good models have come, right? And some recent developments which I have seen, which you can also follow. Okay, which you can also follow, that there is one publicly data set which is now available in 21 Indic languages, which was not available that time. Okay, so we could not find any such data set. Otherwise, it would have been easier for us to do the transliteration, but it was not there that time. But now it is there. It is Aksharantar publicly available data set, and the Indic XLIT model. And this is a model which is trained on this particular data set, which is a collection of 21 Indic language data set. And this was kept in the archive in 2022, and it was published by the Institute AI for Bharat and IIT Madras. Okay, so you can go through this data set, and if suppose you are actually working with the Indic languages where you have the code mix or script mix sort of things, then this would be quite helpful for the transliteration sort of things, if you are actually looking for that, right? Similarly, because before the transliteration, you also have to do some kind of like language identification, because transliteration you cannot do for all the words in the code mix sentence, right? So then those words which are actually written in the Romanized script, but it is a Hindi or Kannada or Tamil, then you can use this Indic LID library to identify the language also, fine. And it can identify the language of 22 Indian languages. And this paper, actually, this is also part of this paper, which has recently, which is a part of ACL 2023. And again, with the same group, IIT Madras, they have published this. Okay, so you can go to these two papers to better understand how to do this translation, and you can do it for your Indic data set also. Fine, these are some of the recent developments. Now, if we talk about the future direction, what could be the future direction? Okay, we have still not solved all the languages what we have in India. Yeah, so it is still in the only 21 Indian languages, and there you can do the transliteration quite well with the good performance. Fine, but when there are some other challenges here which you may get for the new Indian language, where we don't have any database and all, there the transliteration will be very difficult. Okay, so those are the challenges we have. But along with that, we have some more challenges also. That how do we do the hostility prediction in the multi-model data? Multimodal in the sense, till now we were talking only about one kind of data, that was the text. But when it comes to the, say that the text and image, like the meme, okay, what you see on the screen. Now, how do we do the hostility prediction with the meme? So here you can see that here the meme, where we have the image and the text written in that one. So, but it is written, all the words are English, so it is still fine. People have work on this part. Okay, there is a couple of works, good works, which you can find for this one from last 2 or 3 years for this kind of data for hostility protection. But when it comes to this kind of data, look at here. Nowadays, we are these kind of memes are flooded, at least in India, right? That people make fun of others. That there is a sarcasm. So memes are quite popular nowadays for each and every context. So here we have an image, and the data, again, the text part is written either in the script mixed case, or sometimes it will be the code mixed, right? So there it is now challenging, because the model which we have seen so far, the model which we have discussed so far, those things will not work for this kind of data set. Now we are dealing with the multi-model case, right? So now we need to focus. We have to say that we may have to develop some kind of fusion model where we can extract these text out of the image using the OCR techniques. Okay, feed to the text part separately, image part separately, fuse the features, get the classification at the last. Or else we can also do some other kind of approach. We have the transformer based approach nowadays. So we need to see that. So still these kind of data sets, which we are also working, we have not seen the good performance. So we are still working on that. So in future we may develop some models, and yeah, may publish some good paper also. So these are the future direction which we can think on. And there is one more paper, the one more task, actually. It was published in ACL 2022, where there is a meme, and in that meme we need to identify that who is the hero, who is the villain, who is the victim in the context of the hostile prediction. Because whenever we say the hostile, there is some victim for that hostile post. Okay, and that yeah, so through the meme, how do we identify uh, these persons, right, or these roles? So that's why semantic role labeling, this was, it was said that semantic role labeling data set. And here it is shown as only for the English, that all the text which is written in the English. But now you know that at the same time it can happen for the Hindi also, code mix also, script mix also. And we need to identify. So in this particular picture, in this particular, although we can see the Trump, or we can see the other person, and so who is the hero, whether this one or this person or this person, based on the text information, based on the image information, how do we identify who is the villain here, or to whom they are targeting, who is the victim there? So these kind of work is also people now they are, we have also published one paper, although I'm not discussing that here, but we are working in this part also, which you can also still explore. Fine. All right, so that's all from my side today. So what we have discussed is, we have seen what is the consequences of the dark social media, which is quite famous. People are working on that from long time to stop the negative, to like curb or to minimize or mitigate the negative content on the social media, right? And but when we apply the models which is there for the monolingual cases, what we found that they may not work very well with the Indian languages, right? And we have talked about the challenges, that why it will not work, because the data set what we have is not the it's like code mixed, script mixed, and do not follow any structure or grammar or something, and that makes the problem, that creates the problem for the models to understand the pattern in the data set, right? That we discussed. And through one case study, we understood how to handle such kind of data set, that where the structure is missing, the proper structure is missing. or proper grammar is missing or something like that. And we talked about the translation and transliteration based approach for that. And I have also shown you a couple of future research direction in which you can still think on if you are interested. We are also working in this area continuously, so you can also approach me for any other collaboration or some kind of things, right? So that is all from my side, which I feel I wanted to present here. Thank you. And now I am open for the question in the next 10 minutes. So we can, uh, yeah, we can have a question for next 10 to 15 minutes if you have.
Thanks for the presentation. There was a question from Dr. Sharma. What if they post the pics with hate text instead of texting?
What if they post
Post
the pic?
the pictures with
I
hate text.
Yeah, I think I have shown the same thing. It is a kind of uh, kind of meme, I guess, which I have said that instead of texting, the post is not a text now. It may be the picture. Okay, sometimes and most of the time, picture also have some these words, which makes it meme actually. So yeah, people, I have told you that one that we have actually handled this kind of data also, the hostile data, and there you have to handle both the things, that what is the text information there, picture and the image information there. You may have to utilize both the features somehow, and then you have to predict that whether it falls in any of the categories or not. Yeah. Or it can be something like that also, as I have said you, that we are still working on these parts. But yeah, that these could be the situations, multimodal things which I was discussing, I believe. Okay, there
There
is
is
one more
second
question.
question.
I'll read it, sir.
Okay.
Uh, how to proceed with pre-processing in low resource languages like Gujarati, hostile, post prediction. Uh, right. So see, when we talk about the pre-processing, when we talk, what are the things which we don't in the pre-processing steps? What exactly we want to do? That what we want to keep in our raw data and what we don't want to see. That is the things which we do in the pre-processing on steps. Now, irrespective of whether it is like Hindi, English, Gujarati, now few things are very common, like that some punctuations, like some special characters. There are some earlier we were feeling that emojis and all, right, they also may not play very important role, but nowadays what we have identified that no, removing the emoji may not be the good idea, because they also have some good information about the context, right? So we need to identify actually, like in the Hindi, I have shown you some of the Hindi sentences also.